to call the city council meeting to order, Monday, August 8th, 7 p.m. Roll call.
David Paradise.
Nicole Andrioff.
Kirby Moyna.
Tom Marslock.
Sam Solars.
Jessica Bonniwell.
Jared Vogie.
Stu Gritman.
Dan Reamer.
Michael Sommerfeld. Invocation.
I don't see Pastor Ryan out there anymore.
No?
I did email him, he didn't say he wasn't coming.
Okay. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
One addition I'd like to make to the roll call is our new student liaison. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Avery?
Thanks for coming, Avery. Approval of the amended agenda.
I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve the amended agenda.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Mr. Paradise.
Aye.
Mr. Solars.
Aye.
Mr. Marslick.
Aye.
Ms. Andrioff.
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Motion passes 5-0. Approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I will second.
Further discussion? Mr. Marslick.
Aye.
Mr. Solars.
Aye.
Ms. Andrioff.
Aye.
Mr. Paradise.
Aye.
And I'll vote yes. Motion passes 5-0.
Do the invocation.
Do we want to go back?
Yeah, we can, I guess.
Pastor Ryan, do you want to step up for the invocation? We'll go backwards for a second.
Sorry about my tardiness. All the roads I'm used to taking are torn up, so. All right. Well, Father, we thank you for tonight. We thank you for this beautiful day that you've given to us. And we thank you for every opportunity that we can, in small ways and big ways, be a positive influence on this world. Lord, we ask that that indeed would happen here tonight, that this group that you have assembled, along with all of the voices here from this community, would work together, that good things might take place, and that your people might be blessed. Lord, we thank you for Jesus. We thank you for his suffering and death on our behalf, that we could be forgiven. And we want to live our lives in light of all that you've done for us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. Wright County.
Hello, Deputy Dylan Young with the Sheriff's Office. Over the last month, there's really been no trends recognized or anything down here. The main thing that's going on is obviously the streets being torn up and dealing with traffic, but there's enough residents there that's kind of hard to manage everyone. But now that the main roads are open, stuff's flowing pretty smooth. Do you guys have any concerns or anything that's going on in town? All right, that's all I got.
Thank you.
City Council.
City Council workshop, planning and zoning meeting, fire department meeting, citizen concern, park and recreation special meeting, and Montrose Days committee meeting.
Park and Rec, City Council, the Park and Rec meeting, and Council workshop.
Had EDA personnel meeting, meeting with resident, City Council, Special Council, and League of Minnesota Policy Committee meeting.
Council meeting, Wright County Board of Commissioners meeting and workshop, engineering meeting, EDA, Personnel Committee meeting, and City Council workshop.
Council meeting, workshop, and National Night Out.
Fire Department.
Good morning, Council and Mayor. Attached is the July activity report. Actually a fairly calm month for us, only 22 calls. I think it's the first month in a few months where we've had under 30 calls, so Kind of a little bit of a reprieve, but not much. We're still staying pretty busy, especially with all the road construction and everything, and keeping monitoring that and going to all the meetings. One item or two items to note is our old DNR generator. We got rid of. DNR came and picked that up last month, so that's no longer in our inventory, no longer taking up space or anything in Public Works or down at the sewer ponds. And then Justin Phillips, one of my captains, decided to step down as a captain effective July 1st. He's going to be remaining on the department, but the time commitment just kind of got overwhelming with him and his business and his family. So I'd like to thank him for his time as captain. He served as a captain for 1.5 years, so his experience and knowledge will be greatly missed as the role of an officer in the fire department. Only other thing I have to report is we're still looking for firefighters, so if anybody's interested in joining, contact the fire department. So, questions or anything?
Thanks, Kevin. EDA.
EDA met back on July 19th at noon. We discussed some of the things going on in town here in terms of development. I think the biggest item on the agenda that day was the preserve. The EDA had voted to terminate the agreement that we have with the existing developer out there because there's been a lack of activity, and we will discuss that, I think, a little further on in the meeting. So, other than that, I think, other than reviewing development, that was it.
Any questions about EDA? Planning and zoning.
Mr. Mayor, tonight before the council is a proposed ordinance amendment. Planning Commission spent a few meetings discussing this. It arose from some questions that staff had received over time related to fence construction, primarily corner lot fencing, and the limitation that the code currently has, which is requirement that side yard fences on corner lots can be no more than 4 feet. They're treated like a front yard fence. And a number of, well, I don't know a number, but there was an interest in increasing those side yard fences in height to allow for greater use of backyards for residents with privacy fence up to 6 feet. So the proposed amendment, which was recommended by Planning Commission after their public hearing, is to make two changes to the code. One relates to that setback. It allows a fence on a corner lot near the side property line to be 6 feet in height, extending to 10 feet from the property, from the right-of-way line. So still be a 10-foot setback instead of the 25 that is currently in place for a 6-foot high fence. Again, that will allow property owners to enclose more of their backyard with a privacy fence, and there are some language aspects of that that are included in the code. And the second item that arose from that discussion relates to an internal side yard or rear yard fence setback that we have, which requires a 2-foot setback for fencing and creates a fence agreement requirement for somebody to build a fence basically on their own property line. And the difficulty with that is sometimes securing neighbor approval is not always possible, and ends up with property owners is effectively losing 2 feet of the use of their property. So the proposed amendment here is to allow for fences to encroach in that 2-foot space up to the property line. We can't obviously authorize fences to be built over on a neighboring property, but right up to the property line, provided that that fence is a durable maintenance, effectively maintenance-free construction. So the property owner who constructs the fence would not have to worry about trespassing on neighboring property to maintain it, such as painting or those kinds of things. So as long as it's maintenance-free, it could be up to the property line rather than the required 2-foot setback that's currently in the code. And we did insert also a requirement that property owners submit a certificate of survey to verify location of their fence. So if they're going to get right up to the property line, they can ensure that they are in fact not encroaching on their neighbor's property at that boundary line. So that's the ordinance that's in front of you. Also accompanying that is a resolution for summary publication. In your packet, we've redlined those proposed changes and provided a little more background about other communities and the Planning Commission's discussion as well. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Are there any questions for Steve? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve ordinance number 2022-06.
I will second.
Further discussion on the motion? Mr. Marslick?
Aye.
Mr. Solars?
Aye.
Mr. Paradise?
Aye.
Ms. Andrioff?
Aye.
And I'll vote yes, motion passes 5-0. I'll also make a motion to approve resolution number 2022-26.
I'll second.
Further discussion? I'll vote aye. Mr. Marslick?
Aye.
Mr. Solars?
Aye.
Mr. Paradise?
Aye.
Ms. Andrioff?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thanks, Steve. Park and Rec.
I can do it. I don't think he's here.
No. Well, we had covered the special Park and Rec meeting at our previous council meeting, correct?
Yeah, the special Park and Rec meeting was to discuss the shelter. The following meeting, the Park and Rec committee met and discussed a little bit of business and then went out to the regional park to start working on the park and trail plan. To kind of look at that property and start there with their park and trail plan revision. Was there anything else of note? Yeah, and Park and Rec is going to continue to meet monthly and visit the parks in order to update that plan and keep working on that.
Okay. City Engineer.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. The first item on the agenda this evening under City Engineer is the Phase 1 pay estimate number 5 for the South Side project. As of July 27th, project is approximately 51% complete, so that project continues to move forward. And we are recommending payment in the amount of $569,258.77 to Keekly Underground for pay estimate 5.
I'll make a motion to approve project phase 1 pay application number 5.
I will second.
Further discussion? How far do they think they'll be done by the time that the roads need to be back up to winter drivability?
How long before that?
How
Or
far do they plan on being done by the time we get to that point?
it'll be blacktop on all the streets.
Okay. I know that's a big concern, so I just was curious. Any other discussion? Sandria.
Aye.
Paradise?
Aye.
Mr. Solars?
Aye.
Mr. Marslick?
Aye.
I'll vote yes, motion passes 5-0.
Mayor, Council, the second item this evening is pay estimate number 4 for Phase 2, or the north side of the tracks. The pay estimate is also through July 27th. Based on the work completed through that date, the project is approximately 65% complete, and we are recommending payment in the amount of $645,007.46 to Northdale Construction.
I'll make a motion to approve phase 2 pay application number 4.
I will second.
Second by Andrioff. Further discussion on the motion? Solars.
Aye.
Mr. Marslick.
Aye.
Ms. Andrioff.
Aye.
Mr. Paradise.
Aye.
I'll vote yes, motion passes 5-0.
Third item this evening is related to the water treatment regionalization potential with the city of Waverly. There was a meeting held between city staffs and council related to the potential for regionalization. Those discussions were held, and the city of Waverly was interested in exploring that potential. As a result, we have drafted a proposal to complete that in the amount of $10,000. The City of Waverly Council authorized that, the same thing at their previous meeting, which I believe was last Tuesday or Monday. So ultimately what this would do, as you know, there was a water report that was prepared specific to the City of Montrose. This report would look at the potential and the need for infrastructure. Would it make sense to locate a water treatment facility in a particular location for both communities to utilize? So that would be the exploration of that regionalization report. So with that, I'll answer any questions council might have.
With regionalizing it, what kind of a cost savings do you think that would have towards building it?
That's the purpose of the report.
It's a lump sum, 10,000 from us, 10,000 from Waverly, so $20K.
What specific concerns did they express in that meeting?
I don't know that they really had any specific concerns. One of their interests is further exploring the ownership and operation of the facility. They didn't really express any concerns per se, but they are interested in that discussion, so.
Any other questions for Jared?
What kind of time frame would we be looking at?
I would anticipate that by the end of the year, we would definitely have that regionalization information back and be able to present to both councils.
Okay, thank you.
And with regionalizing, it would speed up the entire process of getting a water treatment plant versus just us doing it on our own, correct? Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Any other questions for Jared? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the lump sum fee of $10,000 to facilitate communication to determine the feasibility of water treatment regionalization between the city of Montrose and Waverly.
I will second.
Further discussion? Mr. Marslick.
Aye.
Mr. Solars.
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Ms. Andrioff.
Aye.
Mr. Paradise.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Council, the next item on the agenda is related to the Pheasant Hills area. As you recall, this spring, there were some drainage concerns in that neighborhood. Subsequently, we did go out there and review the site and identified some potential improvements for that. As we provided that information to council, the request was made to identify some potential costs associated with that. So ultimately, that's what's in your packets this evening. We did split that up into two separate potential solutions, if you will. The first being grading improvements, whereby some grading would be done to better define the drainage swales that were originally part of the development. Since the development was constructed, there's been some improvements placed in drainage and utility easements and some It's not atypical for fill to get moved around from time to time. So we believe that that would definitely help improve that situation out there. The second component or piece of that is there was some discussion that those backyards are saturated for long periods of time. And as a result of that, we identified the potential costs associated with installing drain tile in addition to the grading. So that's kind of the two options. The first option would be grading. The second option would be grading and drain tile. Ultimately, this is for your information. I'm not requesting any action at this point, but simply providing information that council requested. Should you elect to move anything forward with that, at least you have some budgetary numbers for that.
Jared?
Yes.
I'm sorry I didn't hear what you said about from the original development. What changed from then till now?
Over time, there's been some improvements installed within those drainage swales, and potentially some dirt's been moved around in backyards, which isn't uncommon, but definitely the drainage patterns could use some work back there with some additional grading.
What is grubbing?
So I'll back up. Clearing is removing the trunk and the branches of a tree. Grubbing is removing the stumps.
Got it.
Yep.
If we were to go with one of these options, which one would be the best for the long term and not just, it'll fix it for a few years?
Well, completing both the grading and the drain tile at the same time would be probably the best long-term solution. The grading could be completed if that doesn't take care of the issue. Ultimately, the drain tile could be installed after that. The only risk there is you're restoring turf again, and getting grass to grow is not always easy.
Is this one of the developers that went under when the housing market had crashed, or are they still around?
It's a good question. We'd have to look into that.
Because part of this, I feel like, is that they didn't necessarily do the full due diligence of making sure the drainage was sufficient behind those houses. Or has it just been over time that this has been created?
All the activity in that area, including planter beds and trees and everything else that's been put out there, hasn't helped any of the situation out there. So I don't know that we could, even if the developer was around, given the age of that development, I don't know that the city would really have any recourse at this point. I'm sure all development contracts have been expired, and it's certainly something we could discuss with the city attorney if council would like us to, but.
None of these trees or shrubbery or anything were planted by the city, right?
Not that I'm aware of.
I would like to look into see if there's anything we have in the developer agreement that could potentially have them come and fix some of this problem that seems to have been going on for quite a while. There may be some change to the landscape, but I don't put all of the blame on the owners. What are your thoughts, David? You walked around in those backyards?
Yeah, just walking around, I mean, that entire neighborhood there that backs up behind them is at a significant angle. And then there, all the backyards there are just completely flat, so any heavy rain like we had a few months ago, were about 4 inches in, it seemed like 30 minutes time, really did some damage to that area as far as flooding inside the house. And just walking it a day or two afterwards, you know, you're sinking into that soil. So I think that there's some definite concern there that we need to look at and try and see if we can't find a solution to an ongoing problem that's always going to happen there. I mean, I'm sure it gets bad in the wintertime too when that snow melts in the spring. Just sits there, so.
Is there any other discussion on that? So that, we're gonna look into that and then we'll revisit it. Updated pavement management plan, costs?
Council, as the city begins its budgeting process, you'll note the three, or the 2022, 2023, and 2024 projects that were identified in the pavement management plan. Ultimately, what this is for information and council's reference for the updated costs associated with those areas based on current bid pricing. So that's ultimately what that is. So definitely something to keep in mind for potential projects as the budget is developed for 2023. You'll note that the 2022 improvements were not completed this year, so.
Are there any questions on that for Jared? Nope. Any other updates, Jared?
Yeah, the only other update I have is tentatively the Phase 2 or north side is scheduled to be paved around approximately the week of August 15th. So next week, could potentially see some pavement going in up there. The Phase 1 contractor or south side anticipates that all pipe work will be done by the end of next week. So then additional curb and gutter and road building and things like that can occur. So those are the updates that I have this evening.
Any other questions for Jared? Thanks, Jared.
Thanks, Jared.
Thank you. Works?
Mayor, council, I'm looking to get authorization to hire an operator one for our water and wastewater facility out at the wastewater plant. Johnny, or an employee here, is going to step down back into streets, and he does not want that position anymore. So that's why I come to you tonight for approval to put a bid out in a paper and for a new operator. If you have any questions.
Do either of the other two on staff have any interest?
Not that I believe.
What's the licensing level for that, Danny?
In your packet, it's a D and a D. That's what we're looking to have, a minimum requirement, D water, D wastewater.
Okay.
But I did lower the salary range because it might be hard to find those minimum requirements. As long as they're willing to, within a year or so, go get, or at least test for a license. They're not gonna be the main operator out there, they're the second guy out there, so.
With moving a third person into parks,
Well, it'd be
streets,
Public Works, Park Streets,
Yep.
anything else, yep.
what, is there gonna be enough work to keep 3 people busy?
Yes,
In a normal summer, I'm just asking.
yes.
Will that lower the likelihood that we would need summer help or outside sourcing for mowing?
I guess, in my opinion, we could always summer help. I mean, if you want to pay summer help to me is mowing, trimming. Will one guy cure it all? No. We've had the same amount of guys on staff in Public Works for almost 20 years. I think we needed to add the employee anyway. We're a growing town. We've had this conversation before in the last council meeting. Getting summer help is hard, especially getting them to stay. Will it cure all of our answers? No. I feel we need 2 employees, but I'm gonna go for 1 right now. So, in a roundabout way, that's your answer.
Are there any other questions for Danny?
Well, I'll make a motion to authorize the hiring of operator 1 for Public Works.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, Mr. Solars?
Aye.
Mr. Marslick?
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Mr. Paradise?
Aye.
Ms. Andrioff?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Mayor and Council, number 2 on the sheet under Public Works is, I guess I'm looking to get authorized for an umbrella amount to go and replace a pickup. I've been trying to act on pickups. We need one that needs to be replaced. And waiting every month for a council meeting, they tend to get sold. So what I'm looking to do is get, again, that's something you guys can decide, but I'm thinking like up to a $50,000 umbrella amount where if I find a truck, I can just jump on it without waiting for a month to come to a council meeting and asking for approval.
What was previously budgeted for a new truck this year?
What was set aside this year, Mayor and Council, was $40,000 for a new Public Works truck. We have more money in the development accounts for those same accounts, and what has been put away since the last truck was purchased is upwards of $72,000 across all the enterprise accounts. So, I mean, all of it is in a pool of money, but that's what's been put away for that purpose in previous years.
And the truck I'm looking to replace is a regular cab, long box, half-ton, four-wheel drive pickup. But those have also skyrocketed. To order one, we're looking at 2 to 3 years out, a work truck. I'm finding some used ones, but the last time, a couple months ago, when I came to the council for that GMC, that Tuesday after the council meeting, I called and it was sold. So they don't hold on to no trucks for anybody. Not right now. So I'm looking to get approval for, I don't say I'm gonna spend the $72,000. I mean, I'm not gonna go out and buy a Denali city truck, let's be real. I just want approval to not have to come to council. I go to Michael, cut the check, go down and get the truck while it's available. That's what I'm looking for approval on.
What's been the average amount that you found, Dan?
Use anywhere from 29,000 to 45,000.
Well, if anybody's been on the market for a used vehicle of late, they'll find that everything's gone up at least 25%. So, Well, I'd like to make a motion to authorize purchase of a public works truck not to exceed $50,000.
I will second.
So in the budget in total, there's 72,000 roughly set aside over several years for the purchase of a new truck.
In the budget this year, there's 40,000, in addition to that 40,000 over the past, I'd say, 6 years. 4,000 a year across multiple accounts to add up to 72,000 in addition to the 40,000 have been put away. It's not set that that would have to be spent on a vehicle. It could go to anything in those public works field, anything approved by council, but that was its original intent when put away.
Further discussion? Mr. Solars?
Aye.
Ms. Andrioff?
Yes.
Mr. Marslick?
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Mr. Paradise?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Any other updates, Danny?
I was on vacation, but I have learned tonight we're having issues with our well number 6. Sad to say, we will probably be replacing the motor in it. $20,000 to $25,000 is expected to be spent on that well within the next 2 weeks, unless we find that it's still under warranty. And has been, in the ground, what they considered in place since 2019, so I'm doubting there's a warranty on that motor. The issue arose late last week. We had a guy in today. I was not personally here today. I was on vacation. Trout Well came in or called and said that they might be able to get here this week, maybe next week, but that's what they're estimating the cost to be. So I'm just giving you a heads up on that. We were getting close to me possibly talking about a water ban, but with the rain lately, that's going to be held off. But the last month, the month of July, we pumped the most water in Montrose history for a month. The DNR last year forced that watering ban. I'm looking at city code. I have the right to put on a watering ban as a public works director, and we were getting really close to what I thought needed to be. So I'm just giving you a heads up on that.
How much did we pump?
I think it was 14 million gallons last month. Our cold weather average is like 5 million, so we almost tripled it. And that causes a strain. Whether that has anything to do with our well 6 going down, I doubt. But we have 3 wells in town, well 4, well 5, well 6. Well 6 being our newest. I'm not fully sure what's wrong with it yet until they actually pull the well. So they're estimating upwards of 25,000.
If people wanted to not use, say, their city water to water plants or gardens, do you know of a good spot where people could find, rain barrels for cost effective or free?
I know of offhand.
I just saw that a couple weeks ago, the city of Chanhassen had put out a thing encouraging their residents to use rain barrels to help lessen their need for city water for watering purposes, so.
I would encourage anybody to go to the Minnesota DNR website for any information related to rain barrels and stuff. They'll have information on how to set it up and where to get the items.
The only problem is we need the rain to fill the rain barrels, right?
Other than that, that's all I have. You guys have any questions?
Any other questions for Danny?
Thanks, Danny.
Thanks.
Danny. Request for council action. First we have Mr. Robert Heaver. Yeah, it looks like it's on.
turn it on?
No, it should be on,
It's
just,
on. It's flashing.
state your name and address.
Oh, well, I don't know. This is probably all right. We'll see if you can hear me. You can hear me. I guess I'm in here representing the owners of the 4 houses that I think was the beginning of the housing development west of Emerson Avenue that goes on out to, well, it goes about 0.8 of a mile down. What's the street down on the end down there? Going west?
Clementa? You're talking going all the way down to Clementa?
Yeah, down to Clemente. I think that those 4 houses were the beginning of the housing development from the ballpark or Emerson Avenue west to Clemente and north about 0.8 of a mile on Emerson. That's where that huge housing development began. And my son was looking for a house near Montrose back in early 2000 when they started that development. And I encouraged him to look here in this town, even though we had lived in Howard Lake for 35 years. And he went to the first house built on Emerson Avenue as a model home and viewed it, and then looked around the area to the west of that for a possibly better site to build. I happened to be with him that day. We went into that first model house on Emerson. I liked it. And we looked for a different lot. He found something he kind of liked. I said, Shane, why don't you go back and try and buy that model house? We have a love for baseball in our family. There was a baseball softball diamond across the street that was donated to the city, which we believed would stay that way. There would be no houses across the street from him like you would have on many other streets in any town. He went in there and made an offer on that house. They accepted it. He bought it. He lived in it for 10 years. And I had a house on the lake in Howard Lake. He had a family by then. It was a much bigger house. I encouraged him to trade houses with me. And so I've been in that house since 2010. Since that time, I have seen the driveways of all 4 of those houses on that street that first started that development deteriorate. And I can't hardly believe there were worse driveways coming into people's property in town than we have right now. And so we're very happy. All 4 of the owners on that street are very happy that for the first time in over 20 years, we'll have a curb and gutter in front of our houses to keep all of that water that sat on Emerson Avenue across from the ballpark, slanting towards our properties, draining any rainwater right into our property. And as a result of that, I know that the first house on Emerson Avenue on that block has replaced their sump pump, or his sump pump, at least 4 times. He said he thought maybe 5. And by the way, I'm sorry that all 4 of the homeowners were going to be here tonight. 2 of them are still working tonight and can't be here. Another one has an insurance adjuster at his house at this time, deciding whether or not he needs to replace his roof. And the other person is doing a virtual meeting on her work site and also is not here yet. I thought they would all be here. I was told late this afternoon I'm on my own. I guess because I'm the oldest guy on the block and I don't work anymore. But anyway, they are in the process of rebuilding that street at this time. In fact, we have the beginnings of the first sidewalk, or the new sidewalk that we are going to have, which looks like it'll be a good sidewalk because it's thick in cement. I've never seen a cement sidewalk that thick in my life. At the same time, we lost 3 feet of cement that we had paid for over the course of time to the west of where the new sidewalk is going to be. And if you look at the pictures of that were provided here tonight of the old sidewalk and driveways, I don't know if everyone has them that's on the council, but those pictures pretty clearly show what happened to the sidewalk and the driveways because we did not have curb and gutter. And we are the only street on Emerson Avenue North that did not get curb and gutter when they built their homes. And you can see, if you look at these pictures, what happens when rainwater from a street drains into a driveway and a sidewalk over 20 years, greatly because of the amount of salt that is distributed on those sidewalks in the wintertime and the rains that drain everything off that highway into our properties. So now we're told that we're going to have 3 feet less cement than we had paid for over time, plus another 3.5 feet of tar was cut out of our driveway that I guess is going to be replaced. And I'm told, in fact, they'd like to replace the 6.5 feet, 3 of which was cement, 3 of which was tar, and they want to replace that all with tar. We paid for that once already. I don't know why they took out another 3.5 feet of tar when they took the old sidewalk out. I do not know, nor do any of us know, why they moved the sidewalk another 3 feet to the east. Other than that would get it closer to the new curb and gutter, which we're very happy about, because it will keep the water out of our front yards, we hope. So if you look at those pictures that are here, the first one showing that first driveway, that is without any doubt the result of all of the salt that was placed at that intersection just to the north of his house. That's the first house on Emerson Avenue. And he got all of the salt waters drained down to the first driveway, and it ruined that entrance. If you look at the second one, that was mine. Well, it was my son's, and I traded with him after 10 years. So for the last 12 years, I lived there. And my sidewalk isn't too bad, but you notice that both ends, I'm sorry, my pad doesn't look too bad, but both ends of the pad, main pad, up to my double garage door, go downhill. And so whenever it rained, the water sat on that sidewalk on both the east and the north and on the south side of my driveway. And it deteriorated. You notice that on the picture of my driveway, there is a drain there. But when that water came off the highway or the driveway, the street in front, all the years I lived there, the last 12 years, water could not run into that drain. And if it did, it had to be pretty deep water on the sidewalk because the sidewalk was way lower than the bottom of that drain. And as it looks right now, although one of the workers there suggested, right now, the new sidewalk pad that they put in front of my drive up into my garage only goes straight up to the double door. But if you'll look closely at that picture, you'll see that there is a triangle of cement on the north side of that pad going up to my double door that doesn't appear to be going to be replaced. Now, one of the workers there suggested to me that it would be, but I don't understand what's going to happen to the sidewalk then, because the sidewalk was moved further over than the top of my drive entrance to the double door. You can see it on that picture. Am I correct?
Yep.
So I don't, with where they're planning to have the sidewalk, that's going to be kind of strange to have that triangle go 3 feet past the main pad that goes up to my double door. And I appreciate it. Mr. Paradise came by, and I think he can see quite well what I'm suggesting is, I don't know why the sidewalk was moved 3 feet closer to what is now.
Well, and so when I went out there, I mean, we had Danny was out there and James was out there with us as well, and we talked with them. The reason for it was, correct me if I'm wrong, Danny, it was 1.5 foot moved to the east.
Talking with Bolton Mink, it was moved 1.5 feet to the east, for the angle of the driveway and the approach to improve, so it wasn't such a dramatic angle when they pull in.
The old sidewalk was 3 feet more to the west than where the new sidewalk is being placed. I measured it out today. The lines there are sprayed in there. That's where and actually we have rock entrances down to where the old sidewalk was, and that's 3 feet at least from where the new sidewalk is going to be measured out today.
Yeah, we've had this conversation, and it got moved for drainage and design purposes, whether it was 1.5 feet, 3 feet. That's why it got moved. I'm not an engineer, so.
And just to catch everybody up to speed on it all too, is so basically, if you just look at 111 Emerson, because this is Mr. Heber's spot, you see all that sidewalk that goes through. So that's pushed out due to engineering specs, adding the curb and gutter, making sure it flows right. So what's happened is construction came in, used up, cut out some of the driveway as well as part of the
All of it.
Part of the process. No, not all the driveway. Just.
Well, no, up
Yeah,
to the
up
tar.
to the, yeah.
Up to the easement line.
Easement line. So basically coming down is, instead of, again, filling in where the old sidewalk was, that's now gonna be driveway. Because the sidewalk was pushed out further to the road. So that's what we're talking about, is the sidewalk that he's talking about, the 1.5 foot concrete, that's what we're discussing right now. And in the plans, that got moved, therefore extension of driveway out of that to make that drive up to his driveway at less of an angle for them.
And this, what happened to my driveway happened to all the other 3 driveways same way. We all lost 3 feet of cement that we had bought and paid for. And then an additional 3 feet of tar was taken out for the purpose of, I'm not sure exactly why, I'm sure there was a reason. But to get back what we had, we believe that we should get cement from the end of the west side of the sidewalk that's now in a different place than it was, up to where we took out the additional 3, it'll be 6 feet of tar from the sidewalk, 6 feet of cement from the new sidewalk up to where they cut out the tar from our driveways.
So instead of tar.
3 feet of which was cement.
Right, and so instead of all 6 feet of tar, you'd like 6 feet of cement instead.
That's basically what all 4 of the homeowners on that street want. And we may eventually have to turn our driveways into cement, but the rest of the driveway into cement, that'll be our cost again. We paid for an additional 3 feet already, which we're asking you to replace. And then we're asking you to replace that other 3 feet of cement or tar that you took out, that you can see in these pictures. And if you look at the other, if you look at the cement that deteriorated in the next house, it's even worse than the first house, in my opinion. It's totally eaten up by salt and whatever, and if I haven't said it already, because of this drainage, the guy in the first house has replaced his sump pump 4 times. I've replaced mine twice. I don't know what the third homeowner has happened because there were at least 3 different owners of that house. I know that the last owner on that street has replaced his 4 times. And if you multiply that times $400, say, to put in a new sump pump and et cetera, he said between $300 and $400 is what he was paying. That's $1,200. That buy you a little cement. But anyway, I mean, the drainage onto that first block in Emerson Avenue, if you know what it looks like, once you get by the first block, then the road goes uphill. And all of the water for another half a block, every time it rained or whatever, it come down the hill onto the first block and saturated the yards because there was nothing holding back the water in the form of a curb and gutter. It all just ran into our yards. And that's why we're replacing all the sump pumps. We've got that problem solved now. We've got curb and gutter. But
Mr. Heber, I have a quick question for you.
Sure.
Why do you guys want the 6 feet of cement instead of tar? Just curious.
well, I mean, the cement will last longer. And it's stronger. And, I mean, my garage floor is all cement. And
Okay.
I mean,
Jared, what are your thoughts on
it would simply
that?
be better than tar. The tar is what, a couple inches thick? I mean, if you guys are willing to put in cement up to our driveways where it's been cut off, we'd be happy as a pig in mud.
Mayor, Council, so as the plans were designed, the existing driveway material will be extended to the back of the sidewalk. Sidewalk was adjusted to maintain a consistent boulevard width, accommodate ADA, provide access to properties. But the current plan is to extend the bituminous driveways to the back of the new location of the concrete sidewalk.
Back up to where it's been cut off?
To the new sidewalk, which has been adjusted to the east.
So,
That
and it
means
had,
we lose 3 feet of sidewalk.
question for you, Jared, had it been a concrete driveway that was torn up that they previously had, we'd be filling it with concrete, correct? Because
That's
we're gonna
correct.
put back what was torn up?
In kind, yep.
Well, at least 3 feet from where the new sidewalk is going to be, that's already been poured, at least 3 feet closer to our garage doors was cement.
When that was the sidewalk.
Well, who paid for the sidewalk? Homeowners did.
Mm-hmm.
And it was there when we bought those homes.
And you're,
If you looked at ours, where the new sidewalk is going to be, and if you looked at where the sidewalk is on the next block of Emerson, it's in, our new sidewalk is not in line with the next block sidewalk, which I don't understand why. Why wouldn't have you just kept the light, so you come down the sidewalk, it was the same all the way through on Emerson Avenue? It's not. And it doesn't, I mean, at least replace the cement that we had. And maybe if you could, because we've been paying taxes in that whole addition longer than anybody else. We were the first 4 houses in there. I mean, I think we're trying to be really reasonable. Give us back at least what we had in cement. And if you could, finish that last 3 feet that you took out of our tar with cement. If you can't, at least give us the 3 feet of cement. We paid for it already.
What would it take to do that, Jared?
Well, we could add it to, I mean, council certainly has a prerogative to add it to the contract. That'll increase the contract cost. The, probably the larger looming issue would be whether or not council wants to provide additional concrete to every resident on the project.
Mm-hmm. I really couldn't quite understand what was being said. Maybe my hearing is going.
What would be just replacing where the old sidewalk was, leaving that cement, and then replacing the bituminous? 3 and 3 versus 6 of cement.
That, I mean, I'm not sure exactly what the question is. It'd definitely be cheaper, but in any instance where existing concrete was previously, I guess we just gotta figure out what the policy is gonna be moving forward. Certainly, these won't be the only 4 houses that requested it if we modify the city's practice of replacing driveways with what they were previously.
Because if I'm looking at this right, what was sidewalk here is gonna now be driveway, and then in front of that, it'll be 3 feet of where the sidewalk is. I think the compromise they were looking at is just replacing the old sidewalk back with cement, and then their driveway with the bituminous. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, you know, one of the concerns we have is if you just put the 3 foot of cement next to where the new sidewalk is going to be, it's not going to be attached with rebar to keep it from going up and down with the frost and the moisture that gets under it. So if we had a wider, which would be the 6 foot, it'd have a better chance of staying in place. I mean, we saw the sidewalk that we had be like a wave across that whole block, and all winter long it would sit in water, or in the summertime at least. And in the wintertime, if we got rain late and it froze, half of the sidewalk on that block was dangerous to walk on. And that, I guarantee you that that's true. One of those owners fell twice on the sidewalk past his driveway because it was covered in ice. And you can see in these pictures how the driveway sags once it got by our entrance to our garages. So, I mean, I guess I know for sure that all four of us would like to have the same amount of cement back. That would mean 3 more feet added to the west to the new sidewalk. But that 3 feet of cement not attached, Minnesota winters, that thing will move up and down and we'll be in the same condition again. I don't know if I'm getting that explained for you well enough, but you can see what happened. If you look at these pictures, the cement past our pads going up to our garages, in those pictures you can see that it's going down. And I would also say this, that with the old sidewalk, another 3 feet to the west, when the snowplow went by, many times they were blowing or shooting snow over onto the old sidewalk, which was another 3 feet from where it's now going to be. And now when they go by, and I'm not blaming them, I mean, they got to move the snow, but when it comes off that blade and it throws that snow out into the driveways and onto the sidewalk. Well, it's going to be even worse now that the sidewalk is another 3 feet closer to the road, where the plow will be throwing snow. And I think we all kept that sidewalk pretty clean over all those years. I know we did the last 12, because sometimes when those guys were gone to work, I did it myself with my snowblower. And it's going to be worse in the future with that new sidewalk being 3 foot even closer to where the plow is going to go. And I'm sorry that we didn't come down here with this concern before, but until they started laying that cement in there for that new sidewalk, we didn't know that that was happening. How would we know?
Well, we had public hearings.
Huh?
We had public hearings on what the project was gonna be.
Well, I know there were, but there was no notification to our homes that this was going to be happening to the street in front of us. We didn't know until they started laying that cement where the new sidewalk was going to be last week. And that's when you came down and saw it, and I appreciate it. And Mr. Reamer came over and we talked about it. And I mean, that's why we're here so late, but I hate to have to pay for that twice. I think my son paid for most of it the first time when he first bought it. In the taxes he paid the first 10 years. And
You're just paying for the curb and gutter now.
Yeah, now I got curb and gutter. So, well, that should solve a lot of the problem that we had.
Absolutely, and that's why
We're happy about that.
That's why that sidewalk was moved. That's why it was widened a foot. So I think this one is 4 foot. The new one is coming in, it's 5 feet wide, and I mean that's why it's all engineered that way. So you won't have those issues anymore, hopefully. As long as Coco slows down with the plow.
I'm getting old enough so I don't hear everything that's being said here, and my ears are, I probably
It's
need
okay, you
hearing
didn't want to
aids.
hear that anyway.
Whatever, that's my problem, but I'm sorry if I didn't understand.
No, you're good. Just make more or less just saying all the improvements that are being made are because of all the issues you've had going on. And hopefully with these improvements, you'll see less and less of water puddling around on the sidewalks and all that kind of stuff. And that's the hope.
Well, and I could add another, if you can look in this picture, we had a pretty nice boulevard out there between us and the road. Now we're down to a couple of feet. And, we're gonna get, well, hopefully we won't get water running up on there again, but, if you look at the next block up, that's the way ours should look too. It'd be in line. I don't want to understand why they moved over 3 feet with the new sidewalk. So you're walking up the street. I'd just like to see it be back to what we had. And we help pay for all the roads and sidewalks and everything else on all that housing that happened to the west and north of our street. We help pay for all of that in our taxes. So it just seems to make sense that put cement where you taking tar and cement out of our entrances to our property. And thank you for the curb and gutter. It's gonna, think it'll be a huge difference.
Are there any thoughts or comments on replacing that 6 feet with cement instead of tar?
Well, the only thing we have to take in consideration, you're talking about 4 homes, but once you do it for 4 homes, we're going to be doing it for how many more?
I'm gonna say, I feel like we're opening a door here for other things to happen.
How many other homes had the sidewalk moved 3 feet closer to the road?
Everybody else except for our one block, and then if you go on to First Street for 2 blocks, I think, they didn't have curb and gutter either. So there's like 3 blocks of housing on that whole thing to the west and to the north that had curb and gutter. And I think it's 2 blocks on First Street has not ever had curb and gutter. They now do. So it's, and all of those were the first houses in that whole thing, and they paid taxes for the last 20-some years to help everybody else get curb and gutter and the tar and the driveways that they purchased when they bought their houses. I can't imagine why we shouldn't have the same thing now that you're replacing what we had and paid for. I don't know if I'm repeating myself or if I'm not making any sense, but you can see what we had. We're not going to have that, and you've taken out an additional 3 feet of tar, 3.5 actually, since this was all removed. You'd just be asking all those homeowners and the other people in town to help pay for what they got in our yards, which we help pay for in theirs.
Any other thoughts? I don't see an issue with it personally. That's just my opinion.
With the 6 feet of concrete, or are you saying?
If there's already cement there, let's replace it in 3 more feet. I don't recall many other sidewalks being moved like that.
Just to Councilman Andrioff's point, it opens up a Pandora's box of anything then being switched over. And like I said, from going out there and seeing it, what was essentially moved was the actual sidewalk. That was the concrete. If they had concrete that was after that, I could see that that absolutely should be and replaced. But they had asphalt driveway that went right up to right up to that sidewalk line. And that's what we're replacing it with.
Because that's what the policy says, like for
absolutely.
like. Yeah.
Is that your opinion too, Sam?
I just don't want to, again, open up that box. And I get what he's saying. I mean, if we look at adding 6 feet of concrete, I mean, where are they at currently with putting that sidewalk in? I mean, we're going to have to, are they going to have to adjust anything? I mean, these are things we need to think about.
Fine.
Mr. Heber, I don't think that at this time we're going to make any changes to what the plan is currently.
We're not going to get at least the cement back that we had?
I see the point you're making, and I agree, but I don't think that it's all going to be replaced with tar up to what your existing driveway is.
The sidewalk that we had before they did this, I mean, you're going to put the cement back in the 3 feet of cement that we had?
That'll be replaced with regular driveway if I'm understanding the plans correctly.
Why? Just explain to me why we should take tar versus cement for cement that we had. I noticed that the first house down First Street from our block, from Emerson, when the curb and gutter was put in, they took out a slab of cement there also, and they cemented it all back in to where they took it out. It's tied together. It's all cement driveway all the way up to his garage door. Not all new, but what they tore out, they replaced with cement. Why not on ours?
The driveway was cement?
No, not, well, the pad going into it, I consider that my driveway.
No, we're talking about, you just made a reference
To the next house from this one here on the very first page, the next house down on First Street, not on Emerson.
and they had a cement driveway?
They had a cement driveway.
Well, that's why it was replaced
And
with
they
cement.
replaced it, all of what they tore up, they replaced it all up to his cement. And I'm saying we had cement from the tar road all the way up to our tar, but then they took out an additional 3 feet when they tore out our entrance of tar. And we're not getting the 3 feet of cement that we had. We're going to replace that with tar, and you're going to give us tar back.
The difference is the other people already had a concrete driveway, so the policy reads we replace like for like, so we replaced it with concrete. Whereas your driveway was bituminous, so it's going to be replaced with
No,
bituminous.
but from the old tar road that was there,
I understand what
all
you're
the way
saying, and
up to an additional 3 feet was cement. It was cement. They took 3 feet of cement out that they're not replacing. They're replacing 3 feet of cement with 3 feet of tar.
you're talking about the sidewalk they removed, right?
Well, the sidewalk is part of our entrance, which we paid for when we bought our houses, right? And that's what other people who buy a house that has a sidewalk in front of it, they're paying for it in their driveway too.
I understand what you're
We paid for that
saying.
3 feet.
I understand what you're saying, Mr. Heber. It's just the sidewalk is being moved, and so instead of where the sidewalk was, that's going to be tar.
But we're not getting the driveway back that we had.
No, it'll all be the same on your side of the sidewalk now.
That's not gonna make anybody feel good on that block who knows that they paid for an additional 3 feet of cement when they bought their property. And we're not getting it back. It would be like if somehow or another they had to tear off the front part of our house, you know, in order to do whatever. We're not getting back what we had and what we paid for once.
Like I said, Mr. Heber, I understand what you're saying, but it's, that 3 feet of former sidewalk is gonna be tar to match your driveway.
And the guy that lives on First Street, they tore out part of his cement and they replaced his cement. You tore out part of our cement and you're not putting it back.
Because the sidewalk was moved, yes.
Well, the sidewalk was part of our entrance and it was there when we bought our property.
We're kind
How's
of
that
going around in
difference from the
circles
other
here.
guy who had cement? That cement that he had was part of the sidewalk there too. And you replaced it in cement. If you're telling me no, I mean, I cannot believe that that's fair in what you're doing. You moved our sidewalk and then you tell us that it wasn't cement, it was tar.
We have another request for council action, Mr. Orman Rodningen. I'm sure
That's pretty close. Yeah, my name is Orman Ronigan, and I live at 111 Center Avenue South, right over here. And we are going to be enjoying our new curbs and gutters and so on. But we would like a curb cut on the south side of our house because we've had a driveway parking spot there for 40 plus years. And I guess in the curb cut plans for our property, there's no curb cut planned for the south side of the house. We have a small apartment on the north side of our house, and so we have 2 cars, and the tenant currently has 1 car. So we do have in our new plan 3 driveways on the north side of the house, but we've always had this south side driveway because it's so handy and convenient for us if we have company in winter, if they happen to stay over, or this particular tenant has 1 car, but we have had tenants over these 40 years that have had 2 cars. So we really would appreciate getting back to the 4 parking station thing we've had all these years. So I guess you can ask me questions at this point.
How many curb cuts did you have on the one side of the house?
Okay, on the north side of our house and on the west side of our garage, we will have and have had 1 curb cut. On the front of our garage, which faces east, we have a curb cut immediately in front of the garage with an adjoining curb cut that the tenant uses as he only has 1 car. But as I say, the south side of the house has just been sort of a spare parking spot driveway scenario. And as I say, if we do have company that stay over in the winter, we have a parking spot for them, or if a tenant has 2 cars, then, there's 2 cars for 2 spots for the tenant and 2 spots for us.
So if I understand you correctly, you have 3 curb cuts on one side of the house, right?
Correct.
Okay.
But if the tenant or a future tenant would buy or come in with 2 cars, then we'd be in a little bit of a predicament. Plus, at times, we do use that parking spot on the south side that we have had all this time.
Did you bring this concern up before when we had the open houses? By chance?
Public hearings?
Yeah, I spoke to, I wonder if I didn't, I can't say that I spoke to you, but I think I had you over last, would it have been this spring, perhaps? And I don't recall the conversation at all, to tell you the truth. But we did look at it at that time, is what I remember. Now, if I'm not remembering correctly, I don't know. But it seems to me that I had a discussion on the property.
Mayor, council, that's correct. We have visited with the property owner regarding the requested number of curb cuts. Ultimately, that's why it's here before you this evening. Multiple 3 to 4 total curb cuts for one residential property is obviously a violation of city code, and not uncommon to run into this when you previously had a street that didn't have curb and gutter and people drive onto their properties wherever it was convenient, but ultimately, as part of the code, we haven't identified additional curb cuts beyond the east side and the north side, specifically on the south side of the house, which is being requested tonight. So that's currently not part of the plan or construction documents.
Do you have driveway where you're requesting this extra cutout, or is it just part of your lawn that you?
No, it's, well, I've been there 44 years, and over the course of that time, we put in 6 inches of gravel, which I'm sure has, dirt has drifted in by now, and we don't use that driveway every day. So if dirt has drifted in, then we've had some grass growing, but so on. But it's still basically underneath everything is gravel. There's 6 inches of it. So it doesn't cut up, so to speak. It doesn't rut, if you follow me, and so on. And I suppose we really never had to haul in additional gravel because it hasn't cut up, so to speak. Mm-hmm.
So currently it would be what we would classify as a parking pad, but it will no longer be accessible if there's a curb there?
Excuse me?
Basically, it's a parking pad right now, but if we put a curb there, it won't be accessible?
It's a parking pad. Yeah, it's ready to go as a parking pad. In fact, as I say, if we have, overnight guests and stuff, they'll park there to get off the street. And we park there sometimes if we come home. It's groceries or something, we might drive in there. It's closer to the house and so forth. Yeah, so it's a convenient thing for us. That's what it amounts to. Yeah, and again, a future tenant. We've had tenants with 2 cars. He has 1 now.
Comments, thoughts?
I don't know. We're looking at a code violation again.
Yeah. Jared, if I heard you correctly, you said before it was not in code, but now with the new curb cuts in there, it is up to code, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Let me back up. On the east side of the property, there were multiple curb cuts on that property. Not curb cuts, but access areas where people are driving over the roadway to access the property. Now we have, we're proposing to limit the number of curb cuts on that east side and only install one on the north. So there will still be multiple curb cuts on the property, but the whole east side of the property won't be curb cuts.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts or comments? I think where we're running into the issue on this one is that there was no curb. They put in a parking pad years ago, and now there'll be curb and they won't have access to it. Regardless of the curb cuts.
Can it be grandfathered in? Or if it was always there in the past, can it be left?
And the curb's already in, right?
No.
Not in?
So instead of putting a curb, it would just be putting in an apron, correct? Basically.
Yeah, every driveway access gets an apron behind the curb.
I don't want to limit a previously installed area that has been there.
I don't either. Yeah, I mean, considering you've been using it for 44 years, it's kind of tough, kind of put us in a bind here, you know?
Yeah, I
Looking at code versus grandfathering you in.
Yeah, but as I say, it's just a convenient thing for us.
Yeah,
and
I understand.
For some of the people that come and see us, and also the possibility that the tenant, future tenant may or may not have two cars.
Do you have any plans of this property that we could
Like a visual?
Not with me this evening, I don't.
No worries.
Look out the door.
I'm just going off, trying to look at the plans actually to see it. But
Well,
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to add a curb cut on the south side of 111 Center Avenue South.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Marslick?
Aye.
Mr. Solars?
Aye.
Mr. Paradise?
aye.
Ms. Andrioff?
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Motion passes 5-0.
So I got the curb cut?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So I really do appreciate that. I must say, I will continue life as it's been. Okay.
Just don't add any more driveways, though.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Old business.
Mayor, can I ask for some clarification of what we just resolved, maybe?
Okay.
First of all, was there at first an acceptance of at least getting the 3 foot of cement replaced that was taken off of our driveways? Is that it?
On your block, the sidewalk is being moved 3 feet closer to the road towards Carver Field.
So we're
Instead
losing-
of the old sidewalk where it was, that old sidewalk and the area of your driveway that was taken out will all be replaced with tar. So it'll be 6 feet of tar replacing the old sidewalk and what of your driveway was taken out.
And we were asking for the 3 foot of cement to be replaced that was taken out in our driveway.
It was just
And that
moved.
was rejected? Is that
It was,
correct?
Yes.
Oh,
Yep.
I just, because I was concerned that because I suggested that we get 6 foot of cement replaced, where you took out 3 foot of tar, I was asking for at least the 3 feet of cement that we had be replaced with cement. And if you need to put the 3 feet of tar back in there, that should be fair. Well, we were hoping for the whole thing to turn back into cement. But you're rejecting what we had in cement?
If you had a cement or concrete driveway, it would all be put back in as cement. But since you have a tar driveway, it is being replaced with tar.
But it was 3 more feet of that was cement,
It was the sidewalk which was moved, yes.
which was part of the cement work that was put in there in the first place.
And now you'll
That's
have a full tar driveway instead of it being broken up.
Why did we lose 3 feet of cement?
It's just because the sidewalk was moved, Mr. Heber.
You moved our cement totally out on that 3 feet.
The 3 feet
we
of
don't get it
cement you
back.
had on the sidewalk has just been moved over, okay?
What are you going to do with the triangle of cement that I had on the side of my driveway? Am I not getting that either?
We'd have to talk to Jared, and we can do that afterwards if you'd like, but we've moved on from your spot and are on to other things. If you'd like to sit and talk afterwards, we can. Old business, open forum follow-up, mowing and weeds at City Park. Danny?
Yeah, during open forum last time, people brought concerns about the parks. I think our guys are starting to catch up with them. We got wood chips in that were back ordered, and I think they're doing a great job. We took care of the concerns about the weeds in the ice skating rink and around it. They were sprayed and weed whipped. The picnic tables were moved out of there. I think they're doing a fantastic job catching up to the maintenance that needed to be done. And as far as mowing, the guy that is mowing on contract for bid, he is doing exactly what his contract says. So there's really not a bad thing I can say about what he is doing.
I did have a comment from a resident who is very appreciative of how the disc golf course looks.
I also have received a couple comments of good things on how he's doing now. Last time there was the issue of the picnic tables, he did not weed whip around. They are heavy, and I understand he couldn't really move them, but we had a meeting with him at City Hall and sat down and had a conversation with him. Since then, those picnic tables have been moved back to Veterans Park. So I don't see there being an issue with that anymore. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, this resident said that our disc golf course looks better than Monticello's.
Great, that's good to hear. That is Muddy Feet Lawn Service, 100% out there. We go out there not very often, as far as the parks and street guys, so a little cleanup once in a while, but yeah.
Any questions for Danny on that? Burgers in the Park event follow-up.
Evening, Mayor, Council, Greg Humans, 335 Garfield Avenue South, representing Scouts Troop 312 here in Montrose. Just want to give you a follow-up on the Burgers in the Park event. It is a go. It's going to be happening on August 20th. We will be flowering the community. The Scouts are going to go out probably Monday or Tuesday evening and do that prior to the event, so everyone knows about it. I have walked the ground with Coco. We're a little bit concerned about electricity out there, so we will be running a couple of generators, maybe 3 generators to be able to power what we have out there. We've just got a couple of outlets out there, and the amperage is not enough to cover some of the things we're going to have with the freezers and the refrigerators we've got to have on site to be food safe. And to keep the icy pops cold. See here, the Jackie B's has elected not to extend their premises, so there will not be alcohol for the event, served at the event. We will also not be closing the street, so the street will remain open. Talked with the fire chief. Kevin had suggested we need to have some parking restrictions along the roads that go into there Charity, so that we're able to have fire trucks down those avenues. So we will use the no parking signs from our Montrose Days Committee, if possible, to be able to mark those off so that we can have fire access. Changes to that, the fire department is not able to staff a truck out there. I'm hopeful that they would be able to staff a meet and greet recruitment table, if possible, up to them. So we'll be glad to have that if they can. Talking with the Wright County Sheriff, and they will go ahead and see what they can do on having a reserve officer and a squad there as well for a community service meet and greet as well as have our deputy present. He left us. I have our deputy present as he's available, based upon what comes up in the city. Also for a meet and greet. If the city council would like to come out there and do meet and greet, we'd love to have you guys out there as well. So bring your own pop-up and come on out. We'd love to have you guys out there do a meet and greet. That's more a community event. So by all means, join us out there. With respect to a DJ, I don't know if we'll have a DJ yet. Mr. Baumann hasn't gotten back to me as to whether he's going to have that on his property or not, so he doesn't have to do an extension of premise. We will have the KRWC Road Show out there as well for the kids. So primarily the activities will include the burgers in the park. We will have a splash pad from 12 until 4, games and bounce houses from 12 until 4, games from 4 until 6, youth-sponsored games, primarily water sports. And then burgers until 8. We'll do a cupcake walk from 6 p.m. until 7, or until they're gone, which will be a fundraiser for the Scouts going to Alaska next year. Subject to your questions, that's what I have.
What are the hours again?
Pardon?
What were the hours?
We're going to run 12 to 8, and a little later if we have a DJ at across the street at Jackie B's.
Okay.
That'll probably only go till about 11 if we're at tops, because I don't want to push it too far because we've got a community out there as well. Any other questions?
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And sorry for bouncing back and forth and wearing lots of hats tonight.
All good.
New business. Ordinance on a memorandum of sale of cannabis products.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Staff and Council had a special meeting on July 25th, or workshop, to discuss a few items, some of the items that are here tonight. One of them was the sale of cannabis products or THC-infused products. During that meeting, Council asked the city attorney to draft up an ordinance for a temporary moratorium so that staff and Wright County deputies and Wright County Public Health can kind of research this a bit more and determine how to go forward with regulating this. So that is in the packet for the evening. The ordinance is 22-07, and then the summary authorization for publication as 2022-27.
And how long is the moratorium?
I believe it's up to a year, but we can stop it at any point if we figure out what we're going to do.
Pretty much what we would have to do is the attorneys will have to come up with an ordinance for us, and then.
Yeah, and a lot of other cities are doing a temporary moratorium, and likely there will be other ordinances that are coming out that we can look at and see what other cities are going to do as far as regulating, and maybe borrow some of their techniques and ordinances that way. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea to get a handle on it so that we have a list of places that can or cannot sell it. But I would like us to move quickly on it so that we don't eliminate any potential for any kind of business to come into Montrose.
Agreed.
That being said, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2022-07.
I'll second.
Further discussion. Mr. Solars.
Aye.
Mr. Marslick.
Aye.
I'll vote aye. Mr. Paradise.
Aye.
Andrioff.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Also make a motion to pass Resolution 2022-27.
Second.
Further discussion? Mr. Paradise?
Aye.
Ms. Andrioff?
Aye.
Mr. Solars?
Aye.
Mr. Marslick?
Aye.
I'll vote yes, motion passes 5-0. Authorize staff to draft termination for preserve sale contract.
Mayor and Council, as Mr. Marslick mentioned earlier, the EDA at their July meeting discussed the preserve and kind of we've gotten no action, no response from them for several months. We've been waiting for them to turn in some documents in order to go forward with either a TIF district or a development down there, and we have gotten neither. So EDA did recommend to council to draft a termination for the preserve sale contract. And if council approves that, we would just need a motion for that.
We've given them ample time, correct? More than enough?
A couple of years.
The process.
Year and a half at least.
They signed the initial contract in December of 2020, and there's been virtually no activity on the property or anything towards getting a plat done or any movement there.
And City Hall has gotten calls about that
There have been,
land.
we get calls pretty often for interested parties in that area, so I believe that we could turn it around and get it developed if we did do a termination.
Yeah, we requested that they provide financial projections for TIF back on February 7th of this year, and we've heard absolutely nothing, so. So I'll make a motion to authorize a draft request for proposal, I'm reading the wrong line here. Staff to draft termination for the preserve sale.
I'll second.
Further discussion? Mr. Marslick?
Aye.
Mr. Paradise?
Aye.
Mr. Solars?
Aye.
Ms. Andrioff?
Aye.
I'll vote yes, motion passes 5-0. How soon would the attorney send that letter out?
I believe they're just about ready to do that. They have been working on it, so. The final item under new business this evening is an item that was discussed at the July 25th workshop to do request for proposal for refuse services to potentially stop using Randy Sanitation. And this was something that council decided they wanted to go forward with, so we would just need a motion to approve
Going out
staff.
for bids.
Yeah, staff starting to draft that proposal and then going out for bids.
I'll make a motion to authorize a draft request for proposal for refuse services.
I will second.
Further discussion? I think there's been enough instances reported to us and to City Hall themselves about problems going on as well as problems in other cities that have not been corrected in a timely manner, not to mention the most recent billing mishap that they called about as well. So I think it's a good idea. Any other discussion?
No, it's just been going on for too long. Yeah. Residents deserve better than what they're getting from them, so.
I'll vote yes. Mr. Solars?
Yes.
Mr. Marslick?
Yes.
Ms. Andrioff?
Yes.
Mr. Paradise?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Open forum. Michelle Otto?
Michelle Otto, 205 Garfield Avenue North. I'm just here to ask you guys about the fiscal responsibility of the city. Back in June, you guys made a motion to approve a fence over on First Street. I think it was 221 First Street North for approximately $3,645. And then in July, it came back to you guys to change that fence to increase of $4,440. So now the new fence is going to cost $8,085.60. But my question is, have you guys driven by this house to see it? And after this was done last month, I did discuss it with people that are familiar with this property. And the fence that is currently there right now is not even in city code. So right now, we are replacing this fence for this gentleman at roughly $8,100. And this fence, we've had issues, or this property, we have had issues with this property for roughly 8 to 10 years, where the gentleman gets letters of, well, if you drive by the house, you can look at it. And I did take pictures, but it didn't come out good enough for you guys. So the house really should just be, we should have taken the property during this construction, but instead, we're now giving him a new fence for $8,100. Can you guys explain why you did that? You increased the fence for roughly I'm just rounding up, obviously, for $4,500 more than what you originally did. Where is the fiscal smartness in that? On this property, it's an eyesore. It's terrible. I mean, I don't even think people are, if they're living in it, why hasn't the city even enforced code on this house? The weeds are higher than the fence, which is 6 feet. It's going, half the house is rotted, but they're now going to have a brand new cedar fence for $8,085 that you guys approved. Muddy Paws, I'm not sure if I agree with that one. That was another $11,000. So we're roughly under $40,000 into this lawn service, which I think Public Works is doing an amazing job with, you know, the stuff that they've done for the city. And then I just recently was reading the appendix for the union contract. So I want to make sure I understand this correctly. All employees that are under this contract of the Local 49 group are getting a 5% wage increase with an additional 2% COLA, is that correct? So potential 7%? Anybody? Okay. I'm taking that as a yes. And then in 2021, it says that we will continue, where did it go? To identify the health insurance. In 2021, employers and in the union agreed to meet and negotiate health insurance premium contribution rates for the contract years of 2022 and 23, and up to a 5% increase to all wages and classifications. So are we still paying the insurance? Because in 2022 and 2023, it doesn't say what we're doing. So there's a lot of money spent here, and as one of the taxpayers here in the city, I kind of would like some answers.
Jess, can you gather that information for a follow-up? Thank you.
What information are you going to gather? I mean, you can give me an answer right now. In June, you approved a fence. In July, you increased the fence for an $8,100 for almost $4,500 increase of a home that should be condemned, actually, and a home that the city continually sends code violations to, and the fence wasn't even the fence is in violation of the code, but you all are giving them a brand new fence. Makes no sense to me. And then I'm not sure what information.
Sorry to interrupt. I have something to say about this.
So,
Well, we have to keep decorum in this meeting, and anybody can't just shout out things out of the crowd.
and then you guys just approved this contract in the consent agenda for the contract for the union. So I'm not sure what you're asking Jessica to do. I'm asking the council what they approved. I'm sure Jessica can give me many answers, but I want to know, you all just approved it again. You all two of you go through the negotiations. So are we now giving a 7% potential increase to the employees in this contract with an additional paying 100% health insurance? Because last year when you approved this contract, you said that you were going to look at changing the health insurance. but it doesn't look like that. I mean, in 2021, it says you'll go into a negotiation in 2022, 23, but nothing is there in 2022 and 23. So I know I can call Jessica and she'll give me answers that I need, but I want answers from the council who's making these decisions. Nothing. I'm not done.
Your 3 minutes is up, Michelle.
Yes, I realize my 3 minutes are up, but I'm not going to leave yet for at least one more minute. You guys were all elected. You see me up here every month, and you choose to ignore every question that I have. I am a taxpayer. You guys are elected to do what is best for the city, and you choose to ignore me because you dislike me, and that's totally fine. I totally understand that. But I still want answers. I am a taxpayer. I've lived here. I've done this for many years. So if a resident were to come up and ask me these questions, I would give them an answer. And even when you're approving the consent agenda, you should be going through this for transparency purposes, which none of you seem to have. So, now I'm done.
Robin.
Hello, I'm Robin Mrozik from 130 Center Avenue North. I had a contract with the city for an easement. You paid me $1,392 for the easement. Tomorrow, they're putting in a new light or a new pole, and it is not in the easement. It's not in the right of way. It's going on my property. And as far as I'm concerned, they could put the pole somewhere else. So either I get paid for it, or I'm going to go hire an attorney on a breach of contract for the easement, and I'll see you guys in court on it. And it'll be a lot more. And you gave the neighbor the house right down the street from me, the $8,000 plus for a fence. They don't take care of their property. The house got holes in it. It's got trees, weeds. It's got garbage in the backyard. There's a tree that fell down. It's leaning in another tree. There's kids that play in the park all the time. And if that tree fell down and kids wandered over there, they could get hurt or killed. And the city does nothing about that property, and I've heard plenty of people complaining about it. Then there's the house at 291 First Street North that has a fence that was put up over 10 years ago without a permit, and I've complained about this property over and over and over, and nothing's ever been done about it. So I have this eyesore of a fence with holes in it. It falls down on my fence and my property all the time. And the house itself is not livable because the owner was over there and had to clean out 2 feet of dog crap out of the front room. And the guys that are doing the water and sewer, they had accidentally hooked the pipe and broke the pipe. And they had to dig the whole driveway up to put a new pipe in. And they had to go inside the house, and they said the lady made them hook the water back up to the house, even though all the water pipes are broke inside the house because it froze last winter. The house is uninhabitable. It needs a new roof. It should be condemned. The fence should be condemned and tore down. And then the other problem with the 291 is the driveway that they put in. According to city ordinance, there should be a 5-foot easement or a 5-foot space between property line and driveway. And when they put the driveway in, the driveway is encroaching on my property. And I want the driveway tore out, apron, everything tore out and moved over 5 feet. And if they do that, they can take the telephone pole and put it where they said they were going to put it. Now they're not going to put it where they were going to put it. They're going to put it in front of my garage. And that's in part of my driveway because my driveway goes up and goes to the right. And I do not want the pole there. And tomorrow they're putting the pole in. So is there anything going to be done about this eyesore of a house? You guys, I got an assessment the tax increase on my property for next year is $240,000. You guys did that on purpose because you wanted the $24,000 assessment fee for the property, for the curb and gutter and streets. And I understand that. I'm happy that you're doing the curb and gutter. But I have a house behind me that pays less than $900 a year in taxes. and I already pay $2,500, and the way you guys are increasing my taxes, I'm gonna be at about $4,000. And plus an assessment will put me at about $6,500 a year in taxes on my property. And there's nothing here in Montrose. No grocery stores, there's no hardware store, there's no auto parts store. You guys don't allow any businesses to come in here. And I don't understand this. This town needs to do a better job. I mean, the taxes that I'm paying over there are ridiculous. I could own a lakeshore property and pay less taxes. So there's got to be something done. Whoever assessed my property is wrong, because I have a house to the north of me and a house behind me, and then there's the other house, 291 First Street, and then the house next to it, I don't know the address, but it's the first one on First Street North. And both of those are eyesores. They're dilapidated. They either need to be fixed or tore down. And then there's the house to the north of me was built in like 1885. And you're assessing me for next year, $240,000 is what my tax base is on. And I got houses around me that are depreciating my property value. If I were to sell my house, who's going to buy it with these dilapidated houses? The one behind me at 291, nobody even lives in it. It's abandoned. And they're trying to rent it out. And it's not even, I've been in the house. The floors all do this. And it smells like dog crap really bad. And like I said, they got broken water pipes in there. And I think the city needs to do an ordinance on rental property. It's not up to par to be rented out. And like I said with the driveway, it needs to be moved.
Jared, are you aware of this?
Yeah, Mayor, Council, there's been a bit of history with the street light or the light location. XL is scheduled to replace the poles. Pole is scheduled to go on the easement line between the properties.
But it's not on an easement line. It's on my property.
So, and I've asked staff to verify that it's not on private property. That's not the intent of any poles to be on private property. It should be on the property line.
If you move the pole like 12 inches to the south, it'll be in the middle of the sidewalk, then it'll be in the right of way.
Who is on site tomorrow? Spencer?
We'll have staff on site tomorrow. Yep.
And they can make sure that it stays in the easement?
Correct.
Well, what I was told by the engineer, he says, we don't have control over what XL does. They do whatever they want. And that kind of pissed me off tonight. It was just like, no. I told them where I wanted the pole put. I said, if they put it here, I'm fine with it. So the property line, the east side of the property line, of my property line, and the west side of the neighbor's property line, if they put it right there in the corner, I'm fine. But they put the driveway there, and the driveway should be 5 feet off the property line, and it's not. Because I thought there were setbacks in this town and codes. But they come along and do the curb and gutter, and they go and throw the driveway wherever they want. Because the existing driveway was already there. Well, they took the oak tree down, so they could have moved the driveway over 5 more feet, because in front of that old dumpy house is a big cement slab. They could have put the driveway all the way down there. They don't have a garage or anything.
Staff will be on site to make sure that it stays in the easement and not on private property.
Correct.
But there's no easement there. You guys paid me for 174 square feet, and it was a pie shape. And where that sidewalk is, where it's going, the backside of the sidewalk is my property up to the garage. So it is not in the easement.
Right of way. Sorry.
It's not in the right of way either. I know where the right of way is, and I know where the easement is. It's just a Bolton and Mink deal here is what it is. Do what they want.
So staff will make sure that it stays where it's supposed to and not move.
Yeah,
into
go
private
across the
property.
street by the railroad tracks, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, staff will make sure that it does not go onto private property.
But where they're gonna put it will be on private property. Unless you guys wanna pay for the easement. You already paid me for an easement, but it was a pie shape, and the corner of my property on the east side, the southeast side, the sidewalk is right on the edge of the property. There's no place to put the pole. So they screwed up and didn't think about that part. So they should have paid for more of an easement. And then I want to know, are you guys going to do anything about these two houses? The dilapidated houses that are not being taken care of?
Everybody gets code enforced, but we will make sure.
Yeah, but you
that-
guys aren't enforcing the code. When I parked my trailer on my yard, you guys sent me a letter and I moved it. Every time I've gotten a letter from the city, I've taken care of the issue. These people have gotten multiple letters and nothing's ever been done. The house behind me at 291, they haven't mowed the grass all summer. The weeds are 6 foot tall. The fence is falling down. The house has got holes in the roof and the shingles are all falling down. Is that what you want for this town? You're the mayor. I would think you'd want this town to look beautiful and be nice, but that's the kind of garbage you want here?
We will make sure that the pole stays on where it's
So,
supposed to.
This is your Twitter. Personal property rights are so important. They are in the Constitution. What you do on your property is your business. Unless you're causing harm to others, it's not anyone's business. Well, this is causing harm to me because I'm getting taxed way high taxes, and I got a house behind me that's got $900 a year property taxes, and it's dilapidated. It should be condemned. It should be. It should be condemned. Nobody lives in it. You come over there. I'll bring you around the house. You walk around the outside, it smells like dog crap. That's how bad the house is. And they're trying to rent it out. That's not a community I want to live in. I want to have houses that are nice around me. I'm in the old part of town. And everybody around me seems to be taking care of their property except for those two places right there. So are we going to do anything about it? Because I've gone up, she's known I've gone up and complained about these properties many, many times. And they send letter after letter after letter, and nothing ever happens. I thought that the city of Montrose had a policy that if you do not mow your lawn, we will mow it for you and we will charge you. You guys haven't done that. You send out the letters, but you never go and mow the grass or weed whip or take care of these properties and then charge them. It's in your ordinance. You talk about it all. I've read it. If you do not mow your grass or take care of your property, we will take care of it for you and we will charge you. And that's what you need to do to get these people motivated to maybe clean up their properties.
Thanks, Robin.
All right. Well, I hope you do something. Thank you.
Upcoming meetings, planning and zoning meeting, public hearing, August 10th, 7 PM. Park and Rec, Monday, August 15th, 5:30, City Hall. EDA, Tuesday, August 16th, 12 PM, City Hall. Council Workshop, Monday, August 29th, 4 PM, City Hall. And regular city council meeting, September 12th, 7 PM. Acknowledgements. I'd like to acknowledge Justin Phillips for his years of service that he put in as a captain on the fire department. I'm glad that he's sticking around.
I'd like to acknowledge the fire department and the sheriff's department for making the rounds on National Night Out.
Boy Scouts are putting together the Burger in the Park event. Staff has also asked that we don't hang around inside too long afterwards. We can hang out outside, but the staff does need to be here at 6 AM for Election Day tomorrow So they do need to set up tonight and in the morning. With that, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Solars?
Aye.
Mr. Marslick?
Aye.
Andrioff?
Aye.
Mr. Paradise?
Aye.
I'll vote yes. Motion passes 5-0. We're adjourned.